Today we are featuring polenta for the cooking series. This was a soft polenta with Swiss chard, pancetta, and Parmesan cheese. Following up with some of the firm polenta and pan-fried. And I'm Executive Chef Ron Hall, Mercy, Iowa City.
I'm Nancy Carlisle, dietitian.
And welcome to A Taste of Mercy. All right, so Nancy, we're going to do the polenta first. This is going to be a soft polenta, and the difference between the soft and the hard is just simply that. It's soft, you serve it right after you cook it. The hard polenta, you just put it in a pan, let it set up, refrigerate it, and then when it sets up, you can cut that and pan fry that or grill it, and it's more like a starchy bite to it, you know. So this one with the polenta, we start out with the yellow cornmeal. And I have 2.5 cups here. And we're going to add that to a couple cups of cold water. Now, in a lot of these recipes for the polenta, it will just tell you to bring the water to a boil and dump it in. The reason for adding the water first is you have less chance for it to turn lumpy.
To lumps?
Yes. Yeah, so that's what happens a lot of times if you're doing like a gravy or something, is if you dump it in, it's too hot.
Too hot, and it just cooks it right away.
And you get little dumplings.
So this helps to disperse the liquids into the grains of the starch, allowing the starch grains to swell a little bit.
Try to avoid those lumps and bumps. The polenta is going to take about 20-25 minutes to cook, and we'll need to cook that slowly. And initially, the first 5 minutes or so, we want to stir that fairly frequently. After that, we can just kind of go back and forth too. We don't have to stand there the whole 20 minutes and cook that. So that's a real plus. But polenta, been around for hundreds of years. It's, you know, in Italy, you think of pizza, you think of pasta, you know, those are the two staples there. But
so the third piece,
the third one is the polenta, and it's more the northern part of Italy, which was the poor region.
The mountainous region.
Hundreds of years ago, and the peasants actually 3 meals a day was polenta, and this was even before it was with corn, it was other grains.
They could use chestnuts.
They had nothing else. Yes. So it's really been a peasant food for years, and just over the last 40, 50 years, it's gourmet, you know. So people are going to pay the premium for it. So it's made quite a rise.
So when I was a kid and got cornmeal gruel, it was gruel, and now it's caviar?
Yeah, well, something along that line. Cornmeal, 1 part your water. It can be water, it can be chicken broth, it could be a combination of broth and milk. The liquid is about a 4-to-1 ratio, 4 cup of broth, 1 cup of the cornmeal, okay? Then you add that and cook it off. The other thing you have is you can buy it commercially, already prepared. This we bought in the store. It's shelf stable. You don't have to refrigerate it until after you open it. Some places you go, you'll find a refrigerated aisle. Some places you'll find it with the canned goods, okay? We made some of the soft polenta earlier today, and I poured it into a pan and put it in the refrigerator, let it set up. So this is the hard polenta. We're going to cut a little bit of that and just pan fry it a little later on to show you the difference there. So, you know, that would be great if you have maybe the polenta and maybe a piece of beef tenderloin or duck or something and a little sauce over it. That'd be
the hard usually has some sauce put over it of something to
you can
moisten it.
The polenta by itself is just real basic, but you could add the cheese to it. You could add herbs to it. It could be garlic. It could be basil. You know, it's just you could really kick it up and. it's in different parts of the world, but Italy is really where you think about it. And so we're going to do that. And it's going to have the Swiss chard, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and some pancetta, which is an Italian type bacon. We'll talk about that as well. First of all, let's get this going.
So we get it cooked.
I've got the water going, and we'll get it added to it. We'll adjust that temperature a little bit. Okay, we'll let that cook a little bit. Go back to the counter. Nancy, the next part of the recipe is called for some pancetta, which is an Italian bacon. And we have some here. This is what it looks like commercially. It's
very thin sliced.
It's very thin sliced.
It's not smoked, is that right?
It is not smoked. That is probably the major difference. Okay, this is
still cured with the salt.
It's cured with the salt, and it's not smoked. The American bacon has a smoke, and American bacon would be from the belly and the sides. And this is just primarily the belly. This is fairly expensive. If you're doing a recipe and you can't find this, or you don't want to make that cost, your options probably are. One is prosciutto, which is an Italian ham. Again, that's a little on the pricier side. The other option would be to use just plain bacon. And, depending on how true you are to the Italian part, somebody who's really, true blue isn't going to want that. But another option there is you could take the bacon and actually boil that for 4 or 5 minutes, and that will take a bigger share of the smoke flavor out. Then you can drain that and then go ahead and finish cooking that off. And that would be acceptable to most people also.
Sounds like a lot of work, though.
So it is, but it depends on just, how big a deal it is for you. So we small dice this, and I pan fried this a little earlier. And
we just use a little bit of it as we're kind of garnishing
it's just going across
over
the top as a finish. That and a little fresh grated Parmesan cheese. So it's going to be that mouthfeel, the taste. This is going to give you that pork taste and without the smoke. And if you're doing a vegetarian for this dish, you just omit this, and you get yourself a good vegetarian dish also. Okay. So through with that, the next thing is the Swiss chard. Okay. And the Swiss chard is a very perishable. It doesn't hold up very long. It's got a great colors to it. It's a member of the spinach and the beets. And there's different colors. This obviously is the red.
Bright red.
And you told me you have a couple of different flavors.
I usually grow it in my garden as an ornamental plant. Not necessarily to eat, but it's colors, oranges and yellows and blues even. It's very pretty as a background to my flowers.
I think that the three main ones, there's a red, and there's a green, and then there's a yellow. Now the green, the stalks on it are more of a white, light colored, and they are the more tender. The red tends to be a little tougher, but it's all totally edible. Okay. So we're trimming off the ends of it, washing it real well, and draining it. I think for today we're just going to use the green part of it and reserve the stalks. If you're going to use the stalks, you want to cook those a little sooner first, start that, and then finish with the other greens. If you're using the Swiss chard, you want to handle it pretty much just like you do spinach. And when you're cooking it, it's going to take a little longer because it's a little tougher. Yeah, it's a little heavier. It's not as delicate as what the spinach. It's got that little bitter taste, but it's sweeter than spinach. Okay, so it's a real nice. And from the nutritional point, there's a lot of plus for it.
Benefits of that. We've got lots of vitamin A. The dark green always with the vitamin A content. It's got some vitamin C content too with the fresh greens, soluble fiber. So we've got lots iron. It's also a good source of iron. So magnesium, zinc.
I know,
name
I
it,
know,
it's got it.
It's right up there in one of those
Yeah, it is.
top two, top three.
It's not something that a lot of people eat and consume, so we're encouraging it. It's usually very inexpensive, can be grown very easily here.
Okay, well, we're gonna give it a try today. So the next thing we need to do is we'll get some broth going and a little bit of garlic and get that reduced down a little bit, and then we're gonna add the chard to it and cook the chard down.
quickly.
Okay, so we'll get that broth going, and then we'll.
And
okay.
we'll use the broth later also, so that we're not losing all of the vitamin content of the water,
Right.
soluble vitamins.
Okay, so now I have this pan with a little bit of garlic, and there's about 1.5 cups of chicken broth, and we need to reduce that down just a little bit, and then add the chard to that.
While we're over here, Ron, let's go ahead and check on the polenta. It looks like it's probably getting thick enough that we can start adding the cheese to it.
Yeah, it's setting up, it's getting pretty stiff. So it's
Okay.
whipped there, and we'll add the.
Even though it's called a soft polenta, it's still stiff.
It's still pretty stiff. We'll work that cheese in.
The Parmesan's going to add a nice flavor to that kind of rich dairy flavor and nutty flavor. I always think of Parmesan.
It's looking good. So I think we're in good shape here. I'm just going to let that finish off. We'll go ahead and cut up the Swiss chard, and
The garlic
and
broth
cook it
will be
off.
ready.
Everything is ready here. All right, Nancy, we're on the final part here. We're going to head and chop that. I'm going to take the stalks and reserve
Just the
those.
leaves.
And I'm just going to
It'll be pretty big pieces of it. It's just going to
rough
cook
chop.
up and wilt
It's going to
quickly.
be just like the spinach. I'm going to put it in this pan here because we're
It
just going to
shrinks a lot,
It
just
shrinks a
like
lot,
spinach,
and I'm
the
gonna transfer
water
it.
content of it.
add to that broth, and we need about 1/2 gallon. We need a fair amount. It would sound like an awful lot, but again, it does shrink up.
And this recipe is serving how many, Ron?
8 people.
Okay. You can just smell that earthy smell as you start to cut open the leaves of it. Could also be used just in salads for extra flavor to it with that loose chop,
And it's going to add a lot of color to the salad as well.
especially with those red veins of it
Yeah.
that come through.
All right, so we're ready to go. We'll take this over and add it to the broth. 5-6 minutes. It's just a little longer than if you were using spinach, and then we should be ready to
Cooks quickly.
put it together. All right. Get it all in there. And be sure you have a good-sized pan.
You reduced the broth, you added the garlic to it. That's going to enhance the flavors. Garlic, once it's heated, also helps to release those phytochemicals that's present in it, those aromatic sulfur compounds. Just tastes good too.
And you can, the broth is almost gone here. It's coating the greens. I'm going to just put the skillet on top, just to kind of steam it a little bit.
We want
Give
to
it-
leave it pretty green though, don't
Give it a
we?
couple of minutes. Yep. This will be the nice yellow base, and then that bright green on top. It'll really set it off. Nancy, let's take a look here. I don't want to let that get too done.
Yeah,
It's-
because otherwise the red starts coming out of the stalks, but that looks just right, Ron.
looks
with the bright
fine.
green.
Let's just shut
and
that off. See
I'm going
that?
to add some spices
Everything's-
to it just to flavor it a little.
We're just going to do a little salt and pepper.
Just small amounts. And if you were on a low sodium diet, you would not have to add that. Certainly the pepper and the garlic would be fine.
And I got just a little dry leaf thyme I put in there also. So let's put her up together.
Okay.
Okay, so
We're ready to
let's
assemble it
let's put
for
it together.
service.
So this is a soft polenta. Okay.
So it kind of spoon forms. One thing about polenta is that it is low in niacin. Corn is one of the grains, even though it's a whole grain, is low in the vitamin of niacin. So when people eat that as a steady diet, they're very deficient. And the deficiency disease is called pellagra.
All right, now we add a little bit of the chard.
Okay, and so all of our dark green leafy vegetables are great sources of the B vitamins, which the polenta is missing. So it would be a great combination dish.
So now we want to add a little of the pancetta. And a little shredded Parmesan cheese.
Just all kinds of flavor combinations to this dish. Yum.
Soft polenta with Swiss chard and pancetta and fresh Parmesan. Some interesting combinations, flavors, couple new items, and yeah,
Got our vegetables in there again.
and we got them in there. So here's another little tip with the hard polenta. So we did this earlier and let it set up. And the soft worked out great for the other dish, but we're going to invert this over onto the cutting board. And you can cut this in any kind of shape you want. And I've got a little cookie cutter here, and we'll do a couple rings.
Sometimes with the rings like that, I've seen berries and like a dessert kind of made out of a polenta.
So now we can do some cubes. Okay, and on those cubes, you saute those off. Those would be real nice, like on a salad on top, okay, instead of the croutons.
Yeah. One of my favorite dishes as a kid growing up was the leftover cornmeal mush in the morning. And then the evening or the next day, Mom would take the cold and we would strip it up and we would fry it with some butter and usually some bacon, and we'd have it with a sweet pancake syrup over it.
And we're going to do some logs here, and these would be nice for if you're doing, say, a salad or something, and you want to fry these off and do this, and maybe put your greens here, or set a steak on here and put a wine sauce over, something like that. It would be
Yeah, it's such a versatile dish. It just takes the
just-
flavors of everything.
just a little creativity. Just try, see what works out, and you don't lose a whole lot here.
There is something about playing with your food still, isn't it?
Okay, so I've got a skillet heating up on the stove with just a little pan spray. I think maybe I'll just drizzle just a little bit of
Olive oil
olive
on it?
oil on there. Okay, get a little.
Keep it so that
Little
it stays
flavor.
and crisps up a little.
And that'll be a nice taste there as well. Then we'll set these up and go over to the skillet. All right, skillet should be warm enough, Nancy. Here
Okay.
we'll get the.
We're just really basically heating it up, adding some gold color to
just
it.
brown it up a little bit and
Bit
just
of olive oil.
get it heated through. And you can hear it's not taking long to.
Yeah, I think it'd be, instead of breadsticks, it'll be a great addition to that. Salads, croutons with polenta. Certainly they're going to be a source of carbohydrate for people if they choose to use that. But getting some whole grain in, since our corn is a whole grain. Depends on how they cut it up, as they grind it, if it's a fine grind or a
It should only take but a few minutes.
Those look nice and crisp.
Yeah, we've got a nice little brown here. Actually, they're all cooked. We just want to brown them up a
warm
little
them up
bit
and
and to heat them up.
Solidify them a little more. So you can arrange them with any kind of food that you wanted to, a little sauce over them.
Now the cubes you could take and, like I said, again, you could put them on a salad if you wanted to. Maybe you want to take a little of the pancetta after your salad and add to it. We have a little bit in the strips as well.
Okay. Nice garnish on a plate. Flavorful. Easy.
This is, it could be a snack or a meal by itself, and healthy for you as well. So.
Great. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you for joining us today.
And be sure and check out our website for this and other recipes.
See you next time.